Hello and welcome to the Wikipedia Weekly Network, where me and Albin Larsson edits Wikidata live. Hello, Albin.
Hello, Jan.
How
How
are
are
you doing?
you?
I'm good. And you too?
I am as well. It tends to be a bit of a pattern prior to we do this that I have been walking several tens of kilometers and feel a bit tired, but
Oh, nice.
on Wikidata it's perfect. It's a bit
Yes.
relaxing. Yeah,
Yes. Also, probably a bit change of pace, like from being out hiking, sitting down
exactly.
in front of a
Yeah.
computer for a while. Yeah. What do you have in mind for today?
I'm first of all thinking to use the new layout for MediaWiki that will be default by next year. We'll be playing
Yes.
out. It's currently in preview, so people can try it out, and I will
Mm-hmm.
use to do some editing with it, and then I will play around a little with a property that isn't very well used. It's carbon footprint, and I'm thinking we should
Ooh.
add some statements to Wikimedia related events and
Very
such.
nice.
And you, Jan, what are you up to?
I will first give a short tip about quick statements. I've been doing that for a couple of weeks now, and I have one more thing that I just learned this week, or a use case that I think might be worth for more people. And then I'm going to try to look into a little bit of something in recent events. I'm going to take a look at the items around the Belarus protests and see
Right.
how they are doing on Wikidata here. And of course, everyone who is watching, feel free to ask us questions or give us tips when we are doing. We're just Wikidata people like you, so we don't know everything. You might have some tips for us. And I guess also that's the first thing I want to show. Someone gave a tip in the Wikidata community Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook, you should seriously consider joining it, because it's a lot of things going on there and a lot of knowledgeable people there. So I'm going to share my screen like this. So this is the YouTube video. I'm going to paste in the link here into the chat, because that's a little bit of a hard URL to try to write it down, see if I can do. It might not show up everywhere, but in a few places it will go to at least. It looks like Facebook, you're out of luck, because StreamYard cannot post there. Well, either way, this is, as you can, yes, that's even a little bit bigger. So the title of the video was how to add missing descriptions using quick statements tool. And it's a very nice walkthrough in how you can do that. And I was trying it out, and I found a related use case that I have been trying out this week. So I'm going to show you this query. And this query is actually this one. So if you want to try it out, you can look it up. And I'm not going to write it from scratch this time. Instead, I'm going to try to walk you through it, what it actually does. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to select an item. And as you might figure out from this, also the label in Finnish. You can later choose any language pair you like, but Finnish works for my use case. And what I actually want to try to do is I want to select something that has an item label in Finnish, but doesn't have one in Swedish. So that's the big thing I want to do. So because what I want to do later is I'm going to add these labels to the items. And Finnish and Swedish is a good language pair because we have the same spelling. So you don't need to transcribe anything. Like if I was trying to ask for something like for instance, something with a Cyrillic alphabet, like Russian or like that, it will be, we have other labels in Swedish. But for Finnish and Swedish, it's going to be easier. And then I'm also going to narrow it down here a little bit. So I'll choose an occupation. And this is just not to get too many results. So in this example, I'm going to use researchers. I've previously done politicians. And I'll also say they should be citizens of Finland. So when I run this, and I already ran it, I get 500 Finnish labels. And as you can see here already, there's some polishing that we're going to need to do, because we don't want to put this in the label. This is actually wrong. So we can actually start by correcting here. If I can, I don't even see the Finnish label here. So all entered languages. And edit. We don't want the parenthesis in the label like that. That's not his name. Well, so here's the query. So I'm just going to copy everything of this into, and to do that, I'm actually going to go to the bottom first. And then I'm going to go back up. Notice that's a little bit easier for me to actually select all of these. And then I'm just going to drop them into my spreadsheet. I'll just import this. Boom. And then I'm going to find and replace. Now I've done this a couple of times, so it's already preset here. Like I'm removing the WD colon. So replace all of that. And close. So now I have a nice 2 columns here. I have the QID. So I'm actually going to write it here. QID. And this is the Finnish label. But as I said, it's going to work fine in Swedish. So I'm going to do this, the L for label and SV for Swedish. And this is the syntax in quick statements. And if you want to see the quick statements help, it's over there. So you can go there. And then, of course, in this third column, here's where I'm actually going to construct my set of instructions. And I'm just going to do that by taking this one and in there. Oh, not that. And this one. So this is a very simple. And then I'm going to drag this down for all 500. Might take a while. Is there a quicker method for this? I don't know.
I'm sure there is if I know spreadsheets.
Yes, probably.
It's one of my goals prior to turning 25 is to learn how to use a spreadsheet tool efficiently.
Yeah. Well, at least I can keep track of the rows here, so I know when it will take for 9,500. This should be the last one. Yes. So there we got them all, and then I'll actually know this one shortcut. Shift Control arrow up to select everything up. So I'll copy this, and you see I still have this wrong one with the parentheses. I'm going to fix that in the quick statements tool because I think that is actually a little bit easier to edit. So I'll switch over to the tool, and as before, you'll find that one over here. So I'll just drop it. So we have them here, and then I'm going to take a look through here, see if there's anything that I missed. So here we have a professori. Professori. I don't know Finnish. No, that's probably very wrong. But we're going to remove all of these because that's not what we want in our labels. And as I did
tip here, if people are maintaining like a specific area on Wikidata, perfect maintenance queries is always to query for labels with the parentheses in them, because they were very often imported from Wikipedia, where they're very often used to distinguish between different ITs.
Yes.
So great maintenance query for all of you who want to improve that.
Yeah. So this is the very simple one. So I started with a very simple query on the query service to get things with missing label in Swedish but had a label in Finnish. And I'll just import that one and see if it looks all right. And I actually limit it to 500 because then I can actually see them all in one page. If my computer managed to load them in, and I'm just going to scroll it through once more to see if there's anything that looks suspicious or not. But this seems to be very good. It's quite straightforward, mostly names. All right. And yeah, of course I do have the interface in Swedish for now, so trust me that kör is actually run, and I'm gonna hit that button. And
I can confirm this as I'm also Swedish.
Yes. And scroll back up and see it tick away. And the nice thing with this is that I don't actually need to look at it. It will just work on in this tab. I didn't do it as a batch in the background, so I need to keep this tab open, I think. But we'll return back to here, and while this is so this is sort of a great way for you to add the label in a language which might make your info boxes display the correct label.
Right.
Or actually show a label, depending on how your fallbacks are set up. But it never hurts to have the label in more languages. And then the second thing that I promised to do a little bit, where did over here, I guess, yes, was to take a look a little bit about these things happening in Belarus right now. And I think this is an interesting item type because they're not the common ones, so to speak, because we have a lot of scientific articles, galaxies, persons, and stuff like that. But this is a sort of an event that doesn't come around too often. So that's this is something that is I'm not very used in modeling, so that's why I'm going to try to take a look at it and see if I actually can add something. So I'm just going to scroll through here first, see a little bit what is there. All right, so it's location Belarus, and that's probably because it's actually protests all over the place, so it's hard to narrow it down. I think this is quite interesting that we do have a commons category. And I would imagine in this day and age that it's not impossible that we actually have some videos as well. And we have the image here, we don't have any videos. So I'm going to start with checking the commons here. Commons. That's not the category name. Let's see what we have here. Hopefully we have a top category videos from. No, we didn't. But we have a lot of subcategories, so we can. I'm going to start in Minsk because as far as I know, 73 files. That's a lot. No videos, mostly more or less of the same type of image. There's also a different kinds of image properties. So if I see something that might fit that, sort of like a night image we have, we might use that as well. There's some sort of logo. I don't know if this has it. Oh, 157. That's a big one. I cannot spot any videos here. No. Maybe even subcategories for this. Oh, that's the rally. It might be a separate event. 208. Ah, here we have some videos. Unfortunately, many to choose from. Then I should actually probably look at them first. I'm going to put that on the to-do then. I was hoping to just find one. Because that's
it's a nice problem to have.
Yes, it's a nice problem to have.
Not every day we got a video for night.
No. So let's go back here and see if we have. Oh, this is also a very uncommon property. You don't see this often. Objective of project or action. So this is what I want to achieve with this. But what I wanted to see if we can add is sort of the cause. And I think it's
the elections,
the 2020 elections.
Right.
So let's see if we can add that as cause, underlying cause thing that ultimately resulted in this. Yes. And I would expect it's the 2020 elections. No who? Let's check the Wikipedia article and see if we can have 2020 Belarusian presidential election, of course. This one. Yep. And I wonder if there's also a thing I've seen in use, a property called in opposition to. And I wonder if we could say it's in opposition to Alexander Lukashenko. If that might be correct. Or in oppositions to, yes, Belarusian government and president. So let's add that. There we have it. And let's see. Belarusian. No, let's have the spelling correct here. Am I getting tricked here? Is this not the... Of course, it's the opposite. Not know that. Wait. Let's check this up. More complex. Let's just copy the queue number. This was it. All right. So that gives it a little bit more flesh. Wonder if it said anything in the Wikipedia article. Also, this is still ongoing, so it might be tricky. There's a property called number of arrests, but I'm not sure if that's, maybe it's. All right, we do have something here. Nearly 7 have been. So we'll use this as a source. That. Where did I click now? Yes, this is the one I want. All right. So we'll add number of participants as well. That's good. I think we had a source for that. So no unit. No, not the source. 7,000. Then we'll add a qualifier. Point in time. Say that this is as of today. And I think we also should use the, since it said plus, we'll use this nature of statement and say that it is circa. So it's approximately. And then for source, we'll add a reference URL. And here's where we're going to paste it. And then I noticed over here, if I can get back to it, that it already was archived. So we can borrow it for the archive URL as well. That'll be nice. If I can get my computer to work with me. And there we go. And there's the archive. Copy link address. Add, no, archive. URL. No, I get a question. Did you not check the number? But it was in the top of the article, so I actually saw it just when it loaded. So it said 7,000. So no big cheating here.
But good that you check up on us.
Yes. So that was actually why I chose that actual because it had 3 sources, but it said in the top there 7,000. And retrieve date. Retrieved. And today. And I think that'll be quite good. And then we'll see if we had the number of participants as well. we had something saying, oh, this is more complex because this is spread. We do have a source for across the country. Let's take a look at that one. That's a tweet. That's not the best source, but let's take a look. It is from a journalist. But this is 250K, so this is different. That's not, maybe it's a long thread and someone adds it up. All right, here we do have more than 500,000. Yeah, let's add that as a source, but use this tweet instead of the other one. So I'm going to take this one. Oh, now we can actually use this Twitter ID thing as a reference. I haven't done that before. That's going to be interesting. Let's add number of participants. We'll add 500,000. And we'll add the same here, nature of statement. This is also going to be a circa. And let's see how this works. Twitter tweet ID. I'll just paste that. Retrieved. Okay. And we should also add a point of time here. And what did it say? So this is, oh, this is today. All right. So, yeah. So we'll add point in time here. 2020 08 23. Publish that. All right, so we'll add a little bit of the cross. We add a little bit of the size, which might make it show up on the radar some queries, which is always a good way for getting more people to notice it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to stop there. Just a few edits, but it's a learning as we go. It's a complex topic, for sure.
Indeed.
All right, and I'll stop sharing my screen there. Right.
Right. And first off, my Wikidata looks a bit differently today because I just enabled the updates to the vector skin. The vector skin is what's called the UI that's used on most Wikipedias and official MediaWiki instances, which gives me a couple of things. You can see that my center here is slightly more narrow than it used to be, and I also can collapse this menu at the edge. And I'm just going to show you, this is currently being tested. It has been rolled out as default on a few Wikipedias already, including the French one. But you can actually enable this on, I believe, all of the Foundation's instances.
I think so too. How do you do it?
Yes, exactly. So I go to my preferences and go under appearance. And here we got the good old regular skins I can select. But down here, this is actually enabled by default like this. It says that skin preferences use legacy vector. So it's prior to their changes, and you can just uncheck this one and click save, and you will have this new UI as well. I'm currently testing it out. It seems very stable to me, having played around with it, and I can easily switch back here. Would just click if I would need to. It seems to work really good. I especially like it on large screens currently. On smaller screen, I'm quite zoomed in now because we're doing streaming. So everything looks a little small, I believe. But it's getting somewhere. I like it. But
is the logo changed as well?
I think it looks different when the menu is like this. It's a lot smaller. We can actually just switch back, and it just takes me to the settings. Okay, I'm gonna save it. So yeah,
totally
they actually
different.
moved the name as well up to the side and made it a lot smaller. So it looks actually quite different when you put it like this. I'm gonna keep it. We're gonna edit with it today. Yeah, it's rather different. Everything feels a little smaller, which I'm not a huge fan of, but other than that, I like it. So I recently found a property which I found didn't have so much use. I found this because 1.5 weeks ago, I believe, the Wikimedia Foundation released its sustainability report, where they essentially claim here are our carbon equivalent footprint. And I then found the property carbon footprint, and I thought this is a great one. We can track what companies put into the air. We can track that type of data. But I did found it wasn't very used. So I'm thinking we're gonna play around with it a little today. Add it to a couple of things. We're gonna write some queries and just see what we can use this for.
All right.
So I'm gonna start by figuring out where it's used today. Of course, as usual, heading off to the query service. I'm gonna start writing my query, just a basic one. I essentially know one because there are so few items. I just wanna give me all the items that use this property. I'm not gonna use star here because I want the item label with the label service. You can actually get the label without this label service, which means you can still use the star. Jan had a query like that earlier. But this is, in all honesty, a little easier. So I don't know the number. It's not a super high one, but it's quite a high one. It's something 5,000. But I'm gonna use the autocomplete you can enable with control space, carbon footprint. And I'm gonna add the label service as well. So, like that. Let's run this, see what we're getting.
All right, only 18.
Yeah, so we only get 18. So I'm thinking we have a lot of potential here.
Yep.
One thing we're seeing a lot of Apple products.
All right.
You can take something I don't really know what it is. A HomePod. I imagine that's an Apple product. I actually don't know. Yeah, it's a smart speaker. Okay. Let's see how this is used. Carbon footprint
is
146 kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalent, which is kind of what you're using. It's very much of a standard when you talk about putting this into air. We're not only caring about carbon dioxide, but we are caring about ultra relevant, essentially gases. We can actually click and we see that this is units. We could have actually carbon dioxide here if we needed to. What do we more have? Something different. We got different types of these. I imagine they were trying to say here that this is at the production stage of something. This is the amount of carbon it takes to produce this.
Yep. That should probably be a qualifier.
Indeed. I'm thinking we will go over there. But here we have what I imagine is an organization.
That seems like an organization.
Yeah. Here we got a power station. That's what I want.
All right.
Yeah, so this is a French authority. Perfect. Kind of what I'm looking to use this for myself, following companies and such. Carbon footprint. Here we got a great thing as well. We got point in time, so we can actually track change with this, which is a great use case, I believe.
And yeah, they also had sources, which is good.
Which is good, especially for things like this.
Yes.
We got a power station. Let's see how it's used here. Let's see. It's rock. Usually not a great thing.
That was a lot.
That's a lot indeed.
That's a lot, yes. Some gigatons.
And I'm afraid something we are missing here is like, is this for a specific year or is it in the lifetime of the power station? Yep. I imagine that if it's in the lifetime of the power station, it might appear to be a lot less actually. But it seems to be a really high value.
Yeah.
But I don't know how old this is. It has maybe been around for ages and it's coal as well. It might be super efficient coal power plant. It's hard to tell because we're missing a couple of properties. Yeah, but I actually wanted, yeah.
And we also don't have much to compare to. Like, it's 11 terawatts. Is this a big number or not? Like, if we have all the power stations with this, we would easily see if it's a big number or a small number.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we should actually start by using this property on some Wikimedia related items. So first off, we got last year's Wikimania, in which they actually published numbers for this. So I'm thinking we're gonna look that up. I actually got it here already. So Wikimania 2019, they did carbon offsetting, but they also calculated the metric ton of CO2 they put into the air. They got a total here. The 10% buffer, I'm not going to include that. I imagine it's very relevant because I imagine these are actually a little less than I would have expected. But still, we're going to look at Wikimania 2019. Wikimedia conference, right? I imagine this is a really well model team, by the way.
Seems decent, at least.
They got a bunch of speakers.
No carbon footprint yet.
No carbon footprint, which we could also see in the query here. It's just not in the list.
Yeah.
It's not among the 18 items. Oh, by the way, it's asking us for sport here as well.
Yep. I think that's because it's an event.
Yeah, I imagine most events in Wikidata. Oh, we should make a query for that. So we got this number here. It is metric ton. This is a little tricky. It's metric tons of CO2, which there isn't an item for metric tons of CO2. We could see previously there was an item for metric ton of CO2 equivalent, but not of CO2. And I don't, to be honest, think that that's a great way to model it either, because you can actually do it slightly more flexible. You can add a qualifier and say of CO2, because then we could we are actually not dependent on the unit itself. Let's see if I need to write something like that instead. because it also requires less item. We could, for example, use the same unit, but we could do carbon dioxide. We actually just need less items this way. We want a source for this. I think this page is the only source we got for this. I have been trying to look up how this was actually calculated. They just tell us the techniques. They actually don't put in how and the numbers they used. Something for the future. Add reference. Reference URL. Retrieve today. I'm gonna publish it like that. See what it complains about.
So they already decided in the property what units you want get to use.
Yeah. I'm gonna look at the constraints as well. It was actually another thing I wanted to look at this property, what constraints were already there. Let's see. It only wants us to use carbon dioxide equivalent.
Yep.
I don't want to use it that way. Because it's not actually what the source states, and it's while this is good practice, it's not that common. I would say it's 50-50 what people are actually measuring. Also because different companies want to have positive numbers, so if sometimes they avoid using this good one. Because by only using carbon dioxide, they actually hide emissions that way. I have seen it, I'm afraid. I'm gonna leave it like it is. I don't think it's much of a problem as it is. Another thing we got, as I mentioned, another item I want to go to is the Wikimedia Foundation, because it was their sustainability report that triggered me to look up this.
Yep.
And because they started with their sustainability reports last year, we can actually add it for 2 years here.
Yeah, and they were not in your query either, so they don't have it yet.
Exactly. And I will need to look this up. Could maybe that make me find it? This is a file on Commons. See if they link to it to begin with. This is something old, okay. But I should be able to go to this one.
Yes, that's
this
the
is
one.
Final results 2019. I actually want the later one because it contains new numbers even for 2019.
Same category, perhaps?
Exactly, but it might be a big one. Sustainability Impact Statement 2020. I imagine this is it. Total carbon footprint 2018-2019. So I can actually refer to this one. I'm just gonna need to bring it up locally here so I can copy paste the numbers in a moment. But this is our source. Carbon And it's going to be really interesting next year because something we can actually read in this report is that more than 50% of the Wikimedia Foundation's emissions are from air travel and just traveling in general.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see what impact the COVID-19 pandemic have had on it.
Yes.
So, point in time, first we got 2019. I'm going to look up the number here. It's actually, we got the numbers for 2019 and 2018, right?
Yep.
Makes sense. 7. That is ton of CO2 equivalent. Oh. Ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. Great. And I want to add a source to that. URL. It is retrieved. Actually, this might have an item. I imagine. Let's see if it does. If something has a Wikidata item, you can actually search for it, and you just link to it with stated in instead of using this. Foundation. No, it's not in here. Okay. Then we're gonna go with it like this. I'm gonna publish the numbers for 2019. This looks like that. I don't have this neat tool we had a while ago where I could copy paste sources. That's, I don't know. I must have removed it for some reason. Okay, so then 2018 2571.37, and it's ton of carbon equivalent. It's not like the power plant, at least. And the point in time here is 2018. Like that, and I'm gonna need to add the reference manually. It is still retrieved. Can I link to commons here?
Well, you do have the image as a link to a file.
Yeah, but it's is that for PDFs as well?
I think it works for all files, but I'm not sure that's how you're supposed to use it.
Exactly. I don't think I'm supposed to use it. The reason it would be really nice is because now when we got linked data representation on Wikimedia Commons, we would be able to do queries in between and such.
Yep.
In a very nice way. Okay. Let's see, publish this as well. So now this is why I imagine we can. I actually did the wrong year. Point in time is not 2019, it's 2018, but it's the same source, like that. And this is what I imagine we can actually use this for, that we can just do this for a lot of companies and different type of non-profits and so on, and we can actually track this change using Wikidata. We can see that according to this report, emissions slightly decreased between the 2 years. and just being able to do graphs and things for this.
And if you want to go check out the report we just added, this is the short link to it.
Yeah, great. So something, let's see, I got 10 minutes, great. Something you might have remembered me doing is that I created like when we worked with glaciers, I created a page here, a maintenance page where I listed good to have queries and a couple of relevant tools and what should be a map and a graph here. Oh, it doesn't really work in this new layout.
No.
It pushes it below. Okay, so we got a map, glaciers, and we even got some statistics related to this. And I'm thinking we're at least gonna set up one graph for this property as well, which we could reuse.
Nicholas tried to give a tip here about, don't you have an URL of integral text? And then said, P953.
Let's check that out. P953. And I want to search property.
Full work available.
Oh yeah, it's the it's not exactly what I want to achieve.
No, probably not in the source.
Because I want it also to be in the source. This works fine, but what I actually want to achieve is to link to the Wikimedia Commons entity, so to say, the concept URI. I want to have that as a proper linked open data statement, which I don't think it's possible in any neat way today. Also, the concept URLs on Wikimedia Commons is very recently added, and they might still change as far as I know, based on some discussions.
All right.
No, but I really want to, if I just go back, I really want to create something similar for these new properties so we can see how we change. And one thing I actually want a graph like this for is what type of item are we using it on? So what's the instance of on the item we're using this property on? It would be a warehouse. So we would have here instance of non-profit, instance of mobile phone, and so on. And see how many properties we got. So I'm thinking we should write something like that.
All right.
So let's just start. We can base it on this query I used earlier because we are limiting it to item which got this. Then I want the item of. I'm just making this up as I go.
Yep.
Let's see how many tries it takes and how much looking up Sparkle it takes. I can actually use property paths here. EDT instance of, like that, I believe.
Yep.
And I now want to count the various instance of I get. Let's see. I want to count the different types of it and group by them, something like that. And I want to count the various items per instance of. I'm really just making this up. The item I do not care about at this point. Something like this. Let's see, could I do... This is slightly cryptic with my... So that should count, but it should count all of them and not per instance of, and
do you have a typo? CFP, CFT?
yeah, and it doesn't make sense either. I should only need to count instance of.
All right, yes.
Could this be it? Instance of count.
Yep.
I imagine we should probably get the label for the instance of. I'm just gonna autocomplete this one. Auto language English, and do it like this, and I'm gonna change how my variables look, because they look different when I use the label service. Minor things that are important to me. Bad aggregate. Yeah.
Group and label as well.
Yeah, true. So
right.
Foundation 2, so it you can see that all of these are actually for the same. I imagine that the Wikimedia Foundation then got several here. We can actually look at
2 values.
Yeah. So if we go up here, we can see that it's a foundation, it's a charitable organization, and it's a non-profit. And we can see that it's represented entirely here then. Another thing we got, which isn't perfect, is that we got, it says 2 here, but essentially it's not 2 on foundation, it's 2 on the same. That wouldn't be perfect, but I'm gonna leave it like this, I believe. I think this is a good start. And I actually want both of them.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want to put the latest value as a preferred rank?
I don't think so, because it's rather determined by the point in time. So it's not really the preferred for anything. It's just preferred. It's still the most preferred one, depending on what you're asking for.
Yes, but I mean, if you want them all, you can get it. But if you just want one, do we want to serve it easily?
Yeah, but we don't want to imagine that users don't want them for a particular year. So the author one doesn't have a less rank than an author one. In my opinion, it's because we got a qualifier that says that they are different somehow. I don't believe we need to modify the rank. I only use the rank myself when we don't have qualifiers that distinguish them. So it's kind of fallback. For example, if we got more than one image and one is a little better than the other one might show something slightly different, but it's not as representative as the preferred one, and so on.
I mean, we use as when we have prime ministers for a country. We have the point in time on all of them on the country object, but we serve the latest one or the sitting one as the preferred.
Yeah, but then next year you would need to, or not next year, but you would always need to maintain this. So
yes.
Everything you create will always be outdated at some point.
Yes.
And if that's the case, I just tend to depend on the qualifier instead, because it will get out of date. Someone will end maintaining it at some stage. And then we will actually have, if someone adds that and doesn't remember to update the rank, it's essentially false.
Yes, but then it's on them, not on you.
Right?
Then it's on them, not on you.
No, not necessarily, because this rank, it's clearly it's not really communicated or anything. It's not really used in that way. When we got qualifiers, I use them. Otherwise, I don't. And because it won't be possible to maintain it, and especially not when they are about for time events like that. Like when you got point in time, I use
But
them
we do
instead.
that for, I guess, for population. Because we don't want the entire series when we query a country or a city for population. We just want what is the latest one.
Yeah, and it's very often outdated. It doesn't really work in practice. I know that is how it's used, but it doesn't work in practice. One should instead write a query to ask for the highest point in time, or the latest one, so to say, because it doesn't work in practice. It's a nice fork, but it's answer. I'm thinking the last thing we would do is actually to just plot this as a graph, because that's fun. So we can see model series. It's actually the different types of iPhones, I imagine we saw.
Mhm.
But we can see authorities. We can see Wikimania. So it's an instance of Wikimania.
Yep.
We might need to do something that generalizes this a little.
I think it has two. It's also the recurrent event edition.
Right.
So I think that's how we usually model events.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep.
There's even something more specific for recurring events, I believe.
Probably.
But this looks like a good start for me. Gonna see if we're gonna continue with this or move on to something else. I will definitely play with this property more on my own time. I think we can build really cool tracking services and things based on this. And if you want to use this, let's just bring it up quickly.
Yes, that's a nice one.
See.
I just noticed that we're starting our short links with not with capital letters anymore.
No.
So,
I saw there is actually some public statistics of which services that are, or which Wikimedia like subdomains and URLs are being used by this, and the query service is the one.
Yeah.
Followed by, I believe, Chinese Wikipedia, and then it's generally a drop in the numbers.
Yeah.
So there you got the query.
It's actually used where it makes sense, making URLs shorter.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's it from me today.
All right, that was very interesting. So it's still just 20 items then. You added it on 2, it was 18 before, so we have a lot to do. And I think possibly we also need to have more discussions about how to use the property and the units for it, because if we're not agreeing on how to use it, it's going to be also a pain querying.
Indeed, you could see that I did something different from the constraints of the property, because I don't have that value that they assume that I need. I don't have the value for Wikimania of CU2 equivalent.
But they would be equivalent, though, if it's equivalent.
Yeah, but that also assumes I know that they are including that ocean gases as well, for example. But I don't know that they are actually including that. They could possibly only include CO2.
Yes. Yes.
We got a question from Nicholas here. Where did I find those statics? I saw it somewhere. I don't know. I think it's in the Wikimedia Foundation's Grafana instance. So Grafana is a service where you see a lot of statistics related to the Wikimedia Foundation servers and so on. You can see the number of HTTP requests to various URLs and so on. It is somewhere there. I'm gonna look it up and send to you.
Awesome. All right. So I think that's all for today. Thank you for all your questions, and thanks for showing a brand new. Well, the property isn't brand new. It had number 5,000, but it's underused. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm hoping people will start using it now.
Yep. That's a good way. All right. So until next time.
Until next time. Have a great evening, everyone.